I was in a pretty good mood. I mean, what a year, right? Horror games knocking it out of the park, movement shooters, some of the best games ever made, kick-ass action games, crazy fast challenging platformers. I'm a pretty happy guy this year. Hello, I'm the #1 modern God of War hater. You probably already know me at this point. Kuba, I know you're watching this. Hello. Hello everyone, all you new God of War fans. I haven't played God of War Ragnarok since my video on it last year, and not because I hated it, but because I hated significant parts of it. The pacing of the experience tends to bore me, and the Atreus levels are just unbearable. The narrative largely focusing on Atreus also annoys me because I just don't like the character. But I'm not going to rehash all my complaints. I'd rather tell you what I loved about Ragnarok, and what I was hoping for in Valhalla, the new free DLC combat challenge mode. New God of War's combat really shines in 1v1 fights, just you and a powerful, intimidating boss with lots of behaviors to learn. Ragnarok's campaign had like a dozen great boss fights, plus another dozen optional berserker boss fights, and plenty of optional mini-boss encounters versus supercharged versions of high-tier enemies and a few dragons. It was great. It made me think about what runic attacks to equip, which powers to lean into, which armor to use. It was a much more thoughtful combat experience than 2018. And best of all, in boss fights, you don't have to worry so much about the stupid fucking camera with enemies running off screen and having to react to different colored arrows, instead of just being able to see everyone like you could in the old games. The clunky and tedious aiming system of having to turn the camera to adjust where you're striking actually doesn't feel so bad when you're only facing one enemy. For as much as I dislike certain things about Ragnarok, the boss battles were fantastic. I spent hours, days even, just fighting bosses. It was some of the most fun I had the entire year. So with that being established, I was kind of excited for the release of Valhalla. I'm certainly not going to play the New Game Plus mode they added, because it doesn't let you skip the Atreus missions. But hey, a roguelite combat-centric challenge mode playing only as Kratos? That could be fun. I hope there's a lot of boss fights. And I'm not gonna lie, I did enjoy it at times. When you get in the groove of comboing a big bad guy, it's pretty satisfying. And yeah, I love a good dose of nostalgia as much as the next guy. Hearing the old musical themes, visiting the boat and desert from God of War 1 was very nice. I love the return of classic enemies like the Minotaur, Siren, Wraith, Cyclops. There's like 8 old school enemies once you get to the Greece part of Valhalla. And yeah, that's pretty cool. But the majority of the combat of this combat-centric DLC is plagued with pacing issues. The structure is your typical roguelite, picking a shield and style of rage activation, going from room to room killing enemies, opening chests that give you upgrades, runic attacks, currency to buy things like healing, more upgrades, perma-upgrade currency. If you played Hades, it's exactly like that. It's Hades, or Deadlink, a fantastic roguelite FPS that everyone should check out. But whereas those games tend to keep the action rolling room to room, Valhalla, in new God of War fashion, separates its small combat encounters with large spaces of running around opening chests, hooking up to other levels looking for stuff, and running back and forth deciding which door to go in. Just like in the campaign, they seem terrified to just let you fight. It was quite rare that I ever had 2 combat rooms back to back. And so many times these rooms are filled with worms, or toxic guys, or nightmares, or just pathetic enemies. You kill like 5 guys and the fight's over, when this really should have been geared towards higher challenge endurance rounds, surviving multiple waves of deadly enemies. To get you to understand why this experience largely sucks, I have to walk you through it step by step. So have patience with me. I want to present to you what a run of Valhalla looks like. I turned on the game and hit record just to see what kind of run I would randomly capture for you guys. And oh boy did I get a stinker. Here's how it went. Opening room, 2 normal dudes, 1 chest, 18 seconds of combat. Second room, 3 normal dudes, 2 chests, 21 seconds of combat. Third room, big open space, auto-platforming around, opening more chests, breaking pots, using keys to unlock extra areas with more chests, 2 upgrade stations, and finding 3 doors to choose from, which are not conveniently placed next to each other, but scattered around the map to waste your time. 1 minute and 51 seconds spent here. Fourth room, 2 Alfheim guys, annoying floating nightmare things, and then fighting the dumbest enemy in the game, the Wisp. 1 minute and 9 seconds of not very good combat. Fifth room, big open space, opening chests, breaking pots, choosing between which door to open, 41 seconds. Room 6, a fight with only 6 raiders, incredibly basic, no second wave, that's it. 56 seconds of combat. Room 7, a chest. Room 8, big open space, opening chests, breaking pots, looking around, using an upgrade station, 1 minute and 9 seconds spent here. Room 9, this one's really bad. A fight composed entirely of the poison guys that run and jump at you, a guy perched up top lobbing bombs at you, ice soldiers, and that little monkey that blinds you from a distance. Agonizingly boring, 1 minute and 40 seconds of bad combat. Room 10, a big combat arena against raiders and coal raiders, 1 minute, 13 seconds of combat. You're noticing that nothing is really happening here, right? There are barely any big enemies to fight. The combat is incredibly basic and very short. Room 11, back to the first exploration room, now we just go to the unlocked exit at the end, 15 seconds. Room 12, boss fight. Finally, but it's a fire troll. Not fun to fight in the least. I finally kill him without managing to fall asleep, 2 minutes and 6 seconds of terrible combat. Room 13, Muspelheim. Upgrade station, pots to break. It takes 2.5 minutes to reach the end, with 45 seconds of it spent fighting 2 of those annoying frog guys in the fog, and 31 seconds spent fighting those annoying jumping lizards in the fog. Does this sound fun yet? Finally, we get to the grease part, where you gotta make it through 6 combat rooms that grow in intensity the longer you take. Running around in the fog, getting lost, wasting time, and trying to survive fights against some really nasty combinations of enemies. Minotaurs and sirens, man, that's rough. And that's where the camera problem starts to rear its ugly head. 13 minutes of combat and running around the area. This is much closer to the experience you would expect from a game mode like this. Next is the final boss fight against Tyr, which can take anywhere from 4 minutes to 12 minutes depending on how you play it and what attack he has, and then the game is over, win or lose. And I'm not complaining that it's only a 40 to 45 minute experience. That's fine, it's a free DLC with a bunch of new enemies and it's a whole new game mode. The problem is the god-awful pacing. Because, like I spoke about earlier, the fun of Ragnarok is figuring out the boss fights. Trial and error. But in a roguelite, when you die, you gotta repeat the whole thing to get another chance at the boss. And that would be fine if the rest of it were fun, but it's not. I died in this fight against Tyr, and I really shouldn't have. I had a really strong build. I had that relic that spawns the OP multi-sword spell, and I had a couple perks that allowed me to regenerate that relic easy. I should have beat him, but I got impatient. I wasn't parrying like I should have, and I died. That's fine, it's gonna happen. But I'll be damned if I'm gonna go back through another 15 fucking minutes of shitty combat rooms and running around opening boxes and then running around in the fog fighting against the camera just for another chance at the boss. That's why this mode fails. It fails because half of the run ranges from mediocre to awful. It's horribly paced. And then, when you finally can't take it anymore, you can make a choice. Yes, the game actually provides a shortcut to the final level, in the way of skull doors that take you directly to the specific fight you need to pass to open the boss door. So instead of going through 11 rooms, you only go through 5. Hey, that's great, right? Yeah, well, if you skip all those rooms, you're missing all the upgrades and abilities that prepare you to be able to take on those hard final fights. So you're setting yourself up for failure unless you've already unlocked a massive amount of perma upgrades, and even then, going into the final level with just one runic attack and barely any currency to heal yourself, you're not looking at a good time. So shut up and play these terrible early fights for 15 minutes every time you start a run, I guess. And even when you are powerful enough, or just plain good enough to be able to skip the early rooms and go straight to Greece, what are you even doing at that point? Skipping 30% of the experience to fast-track your way around this boring, ugly, fog-filled gauntlet, fighting sirens over and over? No thank you. And once you complete the story, defeating Tyr 4 times, you unlock the classic Kratos skin. Great! An awesome skin for a game I'll never play again. How about you just make this skin usable from the beginning? Then I could have at least played this game mode and been thinking about the good old days. Are the roguelite elements well done? Sure, the randomized upgrades got me experimenting with runic attacks I never used before. That's awesome. And in a very excellent design decision, runic cooldowns are frozen in between moments of combat, so you can't just stand around and wait for everything to come back before you enter the next room. Though you could just kite the last enemy for 2 minutes and recharge everything before the fight ends, so it's definitely not a perfect system. The effects of this balance change are most felt in the timed combat challenges of the Grease part, because the longer you wait, the harder the enemies become. It's just unfortunate that this kind of pressure and fight intensity doesn't present itself until near the end of the run. And of course you can't quit the game at any moment and reload checkpoint to instantly refresh all your cooldowns like you can in the campaign. So you frequently end up running into the next fight with most of your runic attacks unavailable to you right away. It helps make your approach much less one-dimensional. There are things to praise about this game mode, without a doubt. It's just a massive shame that so much of the combat rooms are pathetic, short, and broken up with needless downtime. As for the story, look, I can't even be bothered to analyze it at this point. I like all the conversations about the past, reflecting on what Kratos has done and the effects of his actions. It's good stuff. I'm not against the emotional growth of this character as an old man, but it does get quite repetitive. As a regular viewer on my stream commented, is this whole DLC basically a group therapy session to get Kratos to not be sad? And yeah, basically, it's a lot of back and forth between Kratos and Mimir. You've changed, Kratos, you deserve better things. I don't, I'm shitty. No, you were shitty, not anymore. I don't know about that, I've done horrible things. You can choose to be more than you were. I don't deserve it. On and on for hours, until he eventually decides to be not so sad, and now he's gonna be a leader again. Okay, fine, I don't care anymore. The gameplay got to be so aggravating that I didn't want to hear what any of these characters had to say after a while. Why am I talking about this? I don't want to talk about this anymore, and I certainly won't be playing it again. I hope to God this is the last God of War done in this style. If they do a remake, it better not be in this camera style or combat style. I'm gonna lose my mind. They'll probably take out the nudity too. Hey, if you're still here, how about you check out some videos on games I actually really liked this year? Hi-Fi Rush, Tormented Souls, Turbo Overkill, Amnesia the Bunker, RoboCop Rogue City. Subscribe to this channel and explore. Binge my videos to your heart's content. I know you don't have anything better to do.
Well, that was a good run, wasn't it? I was like, surely it's just going to snap me right back onto the boat. Helios, what do you think about this? Made a mistake by getting that guy. Well, like, I was just attracted to the symbol, and then as I was pressing it, I was like, wait, he's too far out. Well, I mean, this game's not very buggy. It's just gonna snap me right back onto the boat. That's what I assumed. That's what I wrongfully assumed. Okay, I'm gonna see what happens if I just unplug the system.